block. You still asking for retail, and you ain't did no repairs. Guess who's back?
All right, guys, let's talk about having a battle-tested closing system. Now, there's a lot of people in the industry going over teaching acquisitions, but if you don't have a process, if you don't have a system and know the bullet points that you need to touch on, guiding the seller along the journey, you're going to miss a lot of deals and leave way too many opportunities on the table. It's your job and your duty as the acquisitions manager to control the tempo of the conversation, right? And you got to guide and lead the seller along the process. They need to know that you're confident, and then they need to know that they can trust you with the sale of their house.
Yeah, I mean, you basically got to hold the seller's hand. And again, it's really, really important that you know your process yourself. So you can, I call it an elevator pitch. You got to know what your elevator pitch is, and you got to explain that to your seller to make them very comfortable with you, because this will probably be the biggest transaction that they ever do. You know, you're talking about a couple $100,000. So you really, really have to build rapport and make the seller really comfortable with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go over the process. If you guys check out the screen real quick, we got the pre-qualifying process, right? So before even jumping on the phone with the seller, we want to at least pull up the property. We want a basic understanding of the property characteristics, the location, and we need to have an end game in mind, right? Hey, does this fit the buy box for the hedge funds? Is this more of a distressed property that would be a better fit for a private investor? Like, you always want to begin with the end in mind, right? Some people call it reverse wholesaling, right? But always know your play before you're stepping into it. So pre-qualify, get familiar with the house before even jumping on the phone, right? Picking up the phone, report building process. Where do you go from there?
Okay, when we talk about pre-qualification, the main question is what I consider a lead, what most people consider a lead is, does this seller have a house that they want a cash offer on? Like, if you don't get that question answered first, there's no need to really have a conversation, because again, you want to know if they want a cash offer, you want to know if they're motivated, and you have to know what you have to know your different exit strategies. Like, are you buying single family? Are you buying multifamily? Like, what is your exit strategy? So before you can actually pre-qualify somebody, you have to know what you can buy or what you can actually take down. So you pre-qualify them. If they're motivated, they do want a cash offer. And then the rapport building. Rapport building is just about talking to the seller, and like I say, you're having the confidence that you have a service that you can offer, and you want to uncover that value to the seller. So I like to play a game. I like to say, when I get on the phone with somebody, I want to see if, you know, they got kids or where do they work. You know, I'm getting to know the seller, because at the end of the day, when you get off the phone, close the deal or don't close the deal, you want to have made a friend on the phone. And that's how you that's what rapport is about, really making a friend, finding their problem, and helping them solve their problem.
All right, guys. So quick segue with that. We have an acronym called FORM. Family, occupation, recreation, and motivation. This is from my man Eric Bryant, right?
Yeah.
With the FORM. So family, you want to get to know about their family. Do they have children? Do they have a spouse? Is family even important to them, right? Some people, it's the most important thing. Most people, it's the most important thing. Some people probably don't give a crap, right? But we want to figure out, where do we connect with the seller, right? Number one key with rapport building, how can I find a key point that I can connect with this person on a deep, intimate level to build and earn their trust?
There you go.
Occupation. Are they all about work, right? What do they do? What do they enjoy doing, right? Recreation. What do they do for fun, right? Are they into sports? They watch TV? Are they a couch potato? You know, what's the play? Do they play ultimate frisbee on the weekends? Like, what's important to them, right? Pulled it out. And then, of course, the last one, we want to identify motivation.
Yep.
Is this person motivated to sell, and why, right? But we don't want to throw it out there where, hey, why are you so motivated to sell, right? We don't want to just put the cards on the table,
No.
but it's our job as the sales and acquisitions associate to guide them along this journey, to take as much information as we can, getting a big picture on where is the seller at, right?
And I was gonna say, you don't have to hit all of these areas. Like, you got to find one of these areas that you can connect on, because most people like people that are like them. So maybe they're all about family, and you kind of say, yeah, I'm all about family too. I got kids, and you start talking about family. If you're talking about occupation, maybe y'all have something in common as far as where you guys worked before, and so you can connect on that. So just finding somewhere where you can connect to each other, and that's about building rapport. And I want to add a gem in here. People love to hear their name. So when I'm in conversation with somebody, if their name is Jim, I'm always addressing them. Yeah, Jim, I understand. Jim, yeah. I keep saying their name over and over again because people like to hear their name, and that is part of rapport building, because the more you say their name, they're going to feel like we're familiar and we're friends, and that's what you're trying to do.
Absolutely. And with that, right, we'll get deeper into mirroring in some later modules,
Yeah.
right? But you want to mirror the tonality. So
Yeah.
how loud are they talking? Are they aggressive? Are they soft-spoken? You always want to aim to mirror their tonality,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you want to mirror the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And always lead with open-ended questions.
Mhm.
Again, we'll get more in depth with that in future modules. So after you've made a friend, right? After you've earned the trust and the rapport, we can set the stage for what to expect in the remainder of the call. Which brings us over to our closing script, right? So setting the stage. Guide us through how you segue into this and what you're doing in really teeing the seller up so they know what to expect.
So basically, when I'm setting the stage, I get on the phone with the seller and I say, hey, Mr. Seller, you said you wanted a call back? Yes, I did want a call back. So I tell the seller, if you got a few minutes, I want to confirm some information that I already have, which I'm just taking what's on Zillow or Realtor or whatever you're using. And, whatever it's saying, I'm just repeating that back to the seller. And then I say, hey, I want to confirm some information that I have. And then I'm going to ask a couple additional questions. How does that sound, Mr. Seller?
So you're asking permission.
Yeah, I'm asking you.
You're basically teeing it up saying, hey, this is what to expect on this call. I have some information in front of me that was passed along from Alfred or whoever the lead qualifier was. Just want to verify this. This call might take 5 to 10 minutes. However you want to set the stage, but you want to ask for their permission if they're open to engage in this call, right?
Yeah.
So you're ending it like, does that sound good to you? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Right? Before we get started, is there anybody else, right?
Yeah.
You want to make sure that every decision maker is on board and ready to go. So where are you going with that?
Definitely want to check and see if every decision maker is present or if somebody else is involved in the decision making process, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to go through your whole script and they say, well, I got to talk to my husband, or I got to talk to my wife, or I need to talk to my cousin, because sometimes they'll use that to ghost you. So up front, top of your script, you want to say, hey, Mr. Seller, before we go any further, are there any more decision makers on this property? Because I just want to make sure I'm not stepping on anybody's toes.
I love it. So that's kind of at the same time, we're setting the stage with the housekeeping, but we're also beginning to remove the seller objections in this setting the stage, right? So it's a two-piece equation. We're teeing it up, setting expectations, and we're slowly removing the objections that we know could potentially be thrown in towards the bottom of the sale, right? So it's strategically removing them at the top before we even talk about price, so that when we get to negotiations and price, right, they can't throw out, well, I got to talk to my wife, I got to talk to somebody. Hey, Mr. Seller, we were talking about this when we first got on the call, and you told me that every decision maker would be present, right? Is that not the case?
Yeah. And I was going to say also, asking that seller, hey, Mr. Seller, if we can agree on a price today, are you ready to get the process started? So that'll let you know their level of motivation. And with me, if they say, well, I don't know, we'll see, that tells me that maybe they're not that motivated. So I never give like a solid offer. I'll give a ballpark offer because they're not locking in with me, so I'm not locking in with them.
Yeah, that's golden right there. Hey, if we were able to meet and agree on a price today, if we're able to give you exactly what you wanted for the house,
Are you ready to get the process started?
are you ready to make? Are you in a position to make a decision? Right. However you want to lay that out, but boom, you're asking for a soft commitment at the beginning of the call.
Yep.
Right. You're not wasting nobody's time either way. Hey, if you're not ready to a decision point, there's absolutely no pressure. I understand. Right. We're here to help you and serve you in any way that we can. Boom. So from there, let's guide them through the script. Now, quick pivot with the script. The reason that a script is so important, right? Think about a Hollywood actor, right? They master their script, right? They memorize it so good that they literally mold themselves into that character. They put themselves into that character's shoes. So your closing script should be the same thing, right? You don't want to sound robotic, obviously, right? But you want to get so confident in the closing script, getting the repetitions in, that you really fit into that, right? And you can guide them through the process and seamlessly remove the objections, set the stage, and guide the seller on this journey to close them like that. The Hollywood actors do it. That's your roadmap.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and you want to be professional. I mean, if you don't have a script, then how are you gonna get all of your questions answered? Or if you don't have a script, let's say you want to hire on another acquisitions person. Where's the script for that junior acquisition person? You got to have a good script. So yes, it's very important to have a script.
Once you set the stage and you've removed the common objections, and we get into the property criteria, condition, and everything else, how are you bridging into that, from the situation, the relationship, and the pain point into the actual condition of the property? What does that next stage look like on the call?
Well, it's very, very important to get a good property description because, of course, you're building your rapport. You're getting a good property description, which, you got 4 things that are the most expensive things in the house, which is your roof, your HVAC, your kitchen, and your bathroom. So those are very, very important. And so you're just asking these questions. You're building rapport with the seller, and you're finding out why are they moving or why are they interested in a cash offer. All of this stuff together, you're going to use it when you ask how much they want for the property. You're going to use the pain. You're going to use the kitchens hadn't been updated and the roof is 10 years old. Like all of that is going to form your offer for the property. So that's why it's very important to take your time and get a good property description and try to figure out what the seller's pain point is so you can use it in negotiation when you're trying to close on the property.
When we're bridging into the property characteristics, which also in many cases can be linked to the pain, right? So properties run down, distressed, deferred maintenance, right? Behind on payments, foreclosure, whatever the case might be, right? In many cases, the characteristics of this property, in some sense of the matter, are linked to the pain, right? So your location, bed and bath count, square footage of the property. Now, what we're doing is we're finding the avatar, right? Going back to beginning with the end in mind, we want to have an idea of who the end buyer, whether it be a local investor, a hedge fund, could be ourselves, but we want to have a picture of what the property characteristics and the avatar of this property are fitting on the backside of it. We want to enter these conversations with an exit strategy, right? Exit strategy could be you're wholesaling it, you're buying it to flip it, you're holding it as a rental. What is your exit strategy? You got to have the big picture of what that is going into it, right? But we got general characteristics, super important to what you were saying, age of all major systems, right? So age of the roof, AC unit. We want to know the last time that the kitchen and bathroom were updated, because those in themselves, right? Kitchen remodel, 10K minimum. Bathroom remodel, 5 to 7. Roof, depending on the size of the roof, 7 to 10K now. I used to be able to get a roof for 5K. AC unit, 5K, right? But we want to know the age of all major systems and the general condition of the house.
Mm-hmm.
Any other specific features that you can think of?
Bed, bath. Let's see, roof, AC, kitchen, bathroom. I mean, most houses at the least need cosmetic, so carpet or hardwood. It's gonna need some paint. You know, sometimes it's damage to the fascia and soffit and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So, but those are the most important things because those are the most expensive costs to the house. Mm-hmm.
We can assume across the board for any property, unless it's a brand new freaking house,
Mm-hmm.
which we're likely not going to wholesale. I mean, you might. We've wholesaled some new construction to the funds, but in your general sense of the matter, most of these houses we can just expect they're going to need paint and some type of flooring, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're just going to expect that. This is our lipstick, right? Our lipstick job. But beyond that, we want to have all major systems and everything lined up, so we have a big picture and a scope of what we're looking at.
I want to say, and you tell me if this go in with this. You want to know if it's vacant or tenant occupied. If they do have tenants, are they on a month-to-month lease, or are they on a yearly lease? You know, you want to know all that stuff. If it's owner occupied, that's a good time to ask, well, seems like a fairly decent property. Why are you moving? So now you're building rapport, you're trying to find the pain, and then you can ask that owner, like, okay, you're staying in the property, what is your timeline? And I start getting into, you know, this market is kind of hot. I don't want to buy your house, and now you're looking for a place to stay. So if you don't mind me asking, like, what are your plans? And again, I'm showing that seller that I really, really care, and that's the way that I start building rapport. And like I said, it's just actually caring about the seller and asking those questions.
Yeah. You got to have the timeline, right? You got to know, hey, how soon are you looking to sell? If we meet your price, you know, are you looking to sell in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? Is the property vacant? If it's tenant occupied, obviously you need the term of the lease. How long are the tenants going to be there? If it's owner occupied, perfect. What is their next step, right? Do they need a lease back, or do they have a place to go, right? So you're just uncovering all these different pieces along the process of your sales call.
And just like you said with the lease back, that's another exit strategy. If you got somebody, let's say you got a owner that stays in the house, they want to sell the house, but they're going to need to stay there extra 30 days. So we offer something called a lease back. So you have to know what your company benefits and what you have to offer to solve this person's problem.
Once you gather all of the information from the seller, right? We built rapport. Housekeeping, we set the stage. Asked them we asked for permission. They gave us permission. Boom. We started to remove objections. Hey, are all decision makers in place? If we can agree on price, is there anything that's keeping you from agreeing and taking the next steps today? Right? We're removing the objections up front. We're finding the pain. Right? Pain is found in the situation. Right? What is the unique situation that the seller's going through? Right? The pain could be foreclosure, divorce, inherited property, deferred maintenance. It could be sitting vacant, right? Behind on taxes. A lot of different pain points, right? But we gotta find the pain, right? And we kind of brushed over this in the big picture, but the entire process that we're going through, pre-qualifying, building rapport, every step in this process, we're trying to pull out what is the pain point that's coming here, right? Are they moving, right? What is the motivation factor, and how quickly do they need to make a decision, right? The quicker that they need to sell the house, the more pain. The further they're behind on payments, the more pain. Divorce, obvious pain, right? You got to get rid and split up your interest in the property. Inherited property, lots of pain, right? Not only do you have a lot of memories attached to this property inside of it, but good chance that you inherited it. It might be sitting vacant. You don't know what to do with it. They just need to get it off the books, right?
Yeah, and they got to pay them taxes.
Gotta pay the taxes. Deferred maintenance, there's pain, right? You
Mhm.
gotta put money into the house to fix it up. The vacant, it's pain. You gotta pay the taxes.
Gotta pay the taxes. Yep.
And you risking vandalism and squatters, people going in the house, right? A lot of different factors. But every step, every conversation that we're having with the seller, we're just pulling out those pain points and we're putting them in our toolbox, right?
Mhm.
That we're going to use when it comes to the closing phase of the call,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now I say of the call, right? Obviously we want to get as much information on the first contact as we can, but we don't want to just push into it. Obviously you want to go for the close.
Yeah.
If the stage is set, if the timing is right, they're ready to make a decision, we're going for it,
Yeah.
right? But looking at the big picture, and if we look at the numbers, we know that 20% of our deals are the low-hanging fruit,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where the first one or two contacts, seller's ready to make a decision, they've raised their hand, and they're ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
However, 80% of our closed deals are coming from long-term follow-up, right? So we know that we got to stay in front of the seller. Now, we do have an automated system, right, which we have an in-depth training on the CRM we're using and how it continues to hit these sellers on automated drip sequences, right, sends texts and emails automatically
Mhm.
without the acquisitions person having to physically do the task,
Mhm.
right? So again, important to have the long-term follow-up. But we just say this to say, in the 20%, yeah, we want to handle it on this call, but you also want to take accurate notes
Yep.
and make sure that that's put into the CRM and the database. So every time that we get back on the phone with these people, because the rule of sales is the sweet spot is between 5 to 7 touches,
Mhm.
right? Most people, you don't have enough trust and rapport that first call. So 5 to 7 touches is our sweet spot. So you better be making that follow-up, right? You better be making that follow-up, which is going to lead to the 80% of our closed sales.
Yeah.
This is where a lot of acquisitions people miss the mark because we're focused on the pipeline. We're focused on this hamster wheel of just generating more leads, more opportunities, spending more money on marketing, but we're leaving the leads that we already have on the table for someone else to pick up and solve the seller's problem, right? So big picture of it, guys. In this call, we're pulling out the pain points. Don't just keep it in your head. Make sure you're taking notes, right? If you're doing it the dinosaur way, write it in your notebook. If you're doing any type of business and you're bringing at least 3 to 5 leads a day, you got to pivot over to a CRM platform. CRM standing for Customer Relationship Management, right? Got to stay in front of them, and you got to make sure you're taking accurate notes and pulling out that pain. All right, let's go in depth, man, with really how you find the pain and how you're pulling that out to utilize in your negotiations.
I was gonna say, so finding the pain is really easy. It's just being a good listener, and again, you're just building rapport. Some people call and they just want to talk, and if they have a problem, usually with their house, they want to tell you about it. And so it's just active listening for the pain, and seeing what problem I can solve. Whether it is a foreclosure, if it's a foreclosure, well, how did that happen? How long do you got before they close on your house? How can I help? I say things like that. Or let's say the pain is they got a job out of state. What job is it? How long have you been doing that? How can I help? Do you need a moving truck? Seems like you need to be out of town pretty fast. What are you thinking? 30 days, 60 days? You just start asking those questions. Let's say it's a probate and they have a loved one that they lost. Say, oh, I'm very, very sorry for your loss. How can I help? Do they still have stuff in the house? Are you guys in the middle of moving stuff out? Like, how does that make you feel? You're just asking questions, and it's just active listening to people. I don't ever try to overtalk anybody or anything like that. I'm just listening to people, and I am responding, and I am seeing how I can help. Because obviously, if they called, they have a problem. You just have to listen, find out what that problem is, and then you dig into your tool bag to see how you can solve that. And hopefully that's buying the house.
Now the fun part. you got to take all of the information and go for the close, right? So how do you pivot in this situation where you've removed the objections, set the stage, you made a friend, earned their trust, right? You gathered their characteristics, and along the way you pulled out as many pain points as you can. Where are you pivoting from here?
Well, something I've started doing recently is in the beginning of the conversation, I'll ask them, just kind of like to see if I can get an answer, how much you want for the property. You know, sometimes they answer, sometimes they don't answer. So let's say they don't answer. You get all the way down here to you're getting ready to close. And I'll ask them again, condition, pain, I mentioned that. So, Mr. Seller, I know you said you want to get rid of the house, and I know you said you're moving out of town in 30 to 60 days. And I know that you also said that, you know, the kitchen and bathroom needs updates. How much are you thinking that you want for the property? Did you have something in mind already? So all I did was listen, and I kind of regurgitated what they said. That's all I'm doing is regurgitating what they say. And now the negotiating process starts. So let's say you guys agree on a price. Great. But a lot of times it don't happen like that. So it's a couple different things. Let's say you guys do not agree on a price. All I'm going to do is bring up this pain, bring up this condition, and I'm going to talk about that. And if that don't work, then we're going to look at comps in the area. And you know what else I'm going to do? I'm going to bring up this pain, and I'm going to bring up this condition, because this is what they said. They got this pain, they got the condition of the property, and that's where their problem is. So I'm bringing this problem up, and I'm mixing that with my offer.
That's golden, right? So going off of the pain, the condition.
Mm-hmm.
When people are making decisions, we make decisions based off of emotion.
Yep.
Right? So what Jay's doing in this process, he's tapping into the pain, right? In an attempt to tap into the deep-rooted emotions that seller has inside of them, right? They got this pain, it's stirring up inside. Like, gosh, this house has been a pain in the neck, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, I'm tired of just, tenants aren't paying.
Mm-hmm.
House is sitting vacant, whatever it is, and it's stirring, bro. It's a storm that's just brewing up inside of them. So Jason's just he's poking it, right? He's poking the pain, and he's making them feel, right? He's bringing up the emotions from inside of them, getting them into that emotional state, which is ultimately going to lead them to a decision.
And
right?
for example, if you say you got tenants and they're not paying, of course I'm going to say that to you. Like, hey, Mr. Seller, I know you said that you got tenants that are not paying, and I know that you said the property needs some updates. So with that in mind, is that price negotiable?
Yeah. Or ask them, how far are they, if you don't mind me asking, how far are they behind?
Yeah.
Right? And he's going to tell you, be like, dang, that's rough.
Yeah.
Right? And you feel it with them, right? You go through that emotional maze, that emotional roller coaster, and you're taking the ride with them, right? Come here,
y'all
Mr. Seller.
Y'all are partners in this whole process. Instead of me just saying, well, make an offer.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we're partners. I really care about your pain.
Yeah.
And I'm really trying to help you solve this pain, but you got to work with me.
How does that make you feel, Mr. Seller? Right? How does that make you feel? You're tapping in to the pain.
Mm-hmm.
You're resonating with them like, man, I feel you. That's horrible. How does it make you feel?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And again, they got to answer it. They got to brew up that storm and figure a way to respond, right? So the entire process, you're opening up open-ended questions like, how does that make you feel? What are you going to do, right, if you can't sell the house?
There you go. What are you going to do if you cannot sell the house? You want to get the seller to thinking like, I really need to sell this house. But if I don't sell it to Jason, what am I going to do? You know, and again, I said this in the beginning, if I can help people, awesome. If I cannot help people, I always try to point them in the right direction. And I think me being honest like that and trying to give them value, it always comes back to me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Hey, if we're not the best fit, I'd love to point you in the right direction.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Maybe the extra strategy you need to list with a realtor. You know, or maybe the exit strategy, like, hey, I need, the seller might be like, I need a large amount of money. So maybe it's seller financing or some kind of creative financing. Again, it's good to have a lot of different exit strategies so that you can accommodate your seller.
Boom. So let's move over to the script, right? You're closing, you're poking, you're prodding, you're bringing up the emotion. You're asking them how it makes them feel, right? How are you pivoting into the numbers and the close?
How am I pivoting into the numbers and the close? Well, after I went through all of that, of course, your company benefits. I say, hey, Mr. Seller, I know that you're asking for 100,000, but what if I offered 85,000? And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pay all closing costs. I can close in 30 days or less, and the only thing that you would pay as far as closing costs would be, if you owe a mortgage. Everything else I'm gonna pay. You're not gonna deal with any realtors. You're not gonna deal with any commissions. Nothing like that. We're only gonna do one walkthrough, and after that, we'll close on the property. How do you feel about that, Mr. Seller? So I'm just giving them my company benefits. You're paying your company benefits equals a great offer. But if you don't take the time to build rapport and get a good property condition, if you don't take your time and find out what the pain is, then you're not going to be able to make a great offer. You don't have anything to negotiate with.
Yep, I love that. So good little line, right? Moving into it. If I was able to take the property off your hands and we can agree on a price, how soon do you want to get it done, right? Timeline.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking to purchase, one more rental, one more property this month, right?
Creating urgency.
I need to make a decision quickly,
Mm-hmm.
right? They need to know that you got priorities, right? And your offer is not going to be on the table forever,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you're creating the urgency there. So the closing part, right, where you're coming in on your script with the updates and repairs that you just described, Mr. Seller, how much are you asking for the property,
Mm-hmm.
right? Having that line, being able to throw it in there strategically, right, for them to make a decision. You're waiting for the answer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then once they give you an answer, they probably don't want to give you an answer up front, right?
Mm-hmm.
Usually, the first rule in negotiations is the party that gives the number first usually loses,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what do you do if you ask what they want for the property, but they don't give it to you up front?
I was going to say, well, I got a couple different ways that I deal with those type of sellers. So it definitely depends on the situation as far as what the pain is. But okay, if the seller don't want to give you a price off of hand, one of the things that we can do is you want to pull up the comps. So you just basically, you can pull it up on Zillow or you can pull it up on realtor.com and you can say something like this. Hey, Mr. Seller, I'm looking at similar properties on 123 Main Street, and I also see a property on 321 Main Street, and it looks like homes are going for, you want to name your lowest comps up to your highest comps in retail condition. I know that we discussed that the home needs a few updates. So again, you're bringing up that whatever property description that they gave you, that HVAC is 10 years old, that roof is 10 years old, or the kitchen and bathrooms ain't been updated. So you're bringing up the updates and you're naming those lowest comps. And after that, you say, with that in mind, Mr. Seller, how much are you thinking of getting for the property? And if they give you an answer, whatever the answer is, good or bad, you're going to say, that's going to be a little tough. That's going to be a little tough for us. But let me speak to my, you can say your manager or your finance department, because I'm never the guy, even though I do make the decisions and the prices, you always want to use your partner as leverage. Even if it's your cat, you use that person as leverage. So if they say, Jason, I want 80,000, you say, that might be a little tough, but let me check with my finance department to see if I can get that approved. And then you want to use another piece of leverage. You say, if I can get this approved today, are you willing to get the process started today? So if you guys can agree on a price, you always say, if I can get this approved, can we get this process started today?
So yeah, with that, you're on the same team, right? Like you're fighting on their behalf to get the offer price approved. Like, and you're also putting it up to a decision maker. Like, hey, I'm here to help you win, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Mr. Seller, not sure if I could stretch that high. That price is a little bit higher than I was given authorization to get approved. But if I can call the financing department,
Mm-hmm.
and if I can get this offer approved today, are you ready to make a decision, right? So again, you're removing another objection, getting ready so you can get off of the phone. You can make a phone call to whoever, right?
Yeah.
Decision maker.
Yeah.
And that's giving that seller a little bit of awkward time to think about it, right? So like, okay, this guy really is giving it a shot, right? Call him right back. Hey, good news, man. We're ready to make a move at that price. You know, all the information that you provided to me sounds like it should be a good fit. Let's go ahead and talk about next steps.
Yeah, you got to lock them in because time is the killer of all deals.
Yep.
You got to lock them in. You got to create urgency. And like I said, urgency could be, hey, we're only buying 1 to 2 houses this month. Your house looks like a really, really good fit. And I would hate for you to miss this opportunity because I know you said that go back to the pain, or you go back to the property description, or you go back to whatever their motivation was. Like I say, you just listen and you're almost like regurgitating what they said to you.
It's golden. And then taking control of the situation. Perfect. Just got it approved from the finance department, right? Or you guys agreed on price. That's perfect, Mr. Seller. This is what to expect moving forward. I'll go ahead and send you a purchase agreement to your email so that we can go over this together.
Yes.
You don't want to just send the contract out. They open it, they think about it, they look, they take their time, they lose the urgency. We lost the emotion a long time ago, and they ghost you, right? They don't make a decision. Send the purchase agreement out, and do not let that seller off of the phone until you've gone over the purchase agreement and they click and sign it, right? You want to hold their hand and carry them through this entire process to make sure that when they're emotionally involved in the heat of that moment, that they're able to actually take that next action, boom, execute that contract so that we can get that another point on the board.
I was gonna say we actually say I want to send you this contract, but I have to go over it with you. You know, that's our company standard that if I'm going to send a contract, I have to go over it with you to make sure if you got any questions or anything like that, I can answer those questions. So what time would you like me to send the contract so we can go over it together? Again, you just don't send a contract out because they will ghost you, or they'll take their time, or they'll just never sign the contract.
And that, when you're looking at the big picture, the battle-tested closing process. Make sure you're hitting every single bullet point, taking the seller along the journey, and at the end of the call, you're carrying them through it and making sure that you guys can go over the contract together. You can answer any questions and any last objections that they might have so that you can lock it in and close that deal. Get it to the closing table.
Bada bing, bada boom, baby.
Boom.